Aloha and welcome to this week's video. So this week is pretty exciting. I'm going to be starting a new project and I'm going to be using this. So this is whalebone. There's a lot of complexities with whalebone, but the general gist is you can't really get it. I know there's some ways you can get it, but if you want to get it legally and in a good way, really the only way to get it if you're not a part of a native tribe is to get it as a gift. And so that's what I have here is one of the subscribers to my channel was gifted whalebone. He's also a craftsman. He had some leftover pieces and he sent them to me. And so I was able to acquire those. Now, because of the nature of the whalebone, I'm not going to be selling this piece. This piece is actually being made as a gift as well. But I'm super excited to be working with whalebone. I don't know what part of the whale that bone comes from, but it's very small pieces. So I don't know if it's just shavings off of the rib cage, or I'm not entirely sure. But I'm excited to work with it regardless. So the piece I decided to make with it is going to be this Pahoa, or dagger. It's going to be a slashing style Pahoa. So I'm going to have shark teeth that are going to be inset into the blade. And what I'm doing here is just shaping out the general design with my angle grinder. I picked a very beautiful piece of coral wood for this project just because of the nature of the material that's going to be inlay. I wanted the entire piece to just reflect that beauty and majesty. So there wasn't a whole lot of shaping to do with the disc grinder just because the overall design and shape. So the majority of the work is going to be moving forward. Now I'm going to be using my disc sander starting at 150 grit, which is a lower grit, and then working my way up to 320 grit, and then I'm going to be putting in the whalebone inlays. I spent a lot of time thinking about what type of inlay I was going to do. What I decided to do with the whalebone is I'm going to actually make it as an inset that goes around the lanyard hole. So I drill a hole in the back of the handle, and that's where a lanyard would go to, and then have feathers that lash to that. And I'm going to have the whalebone circle that lanyard hole. And I think that'll look really cool, as well as have a nice contrasting spot to the whalebone and the koa, as well as not necessarily cover up too much of the koa with the whalebone. So I want to be careful. I am going to be putting some abalone pearl inlay as well. And so I just want to be a little bit careful so that I don't cover too much of the piece with inlay, because the curl and figure on this coral wood is absolutely gorgeous. And so I'm just being a little bit cautious as to where I put those inlays. Now, one of the things that I've been trying to figure out the best way to do is on my inlay, it needs to be a perfect circle, and then I need a perfectly center circle that's going to be drilled into it where the lanyard hole is going to go. And I wasn't exactly sure how to do that. And so the thought that I had is I went and found some coins, and I was seeing if any of my coins happened to match up with any of my drill bits. And sure enough, I got lucky, and I had a Japanese coin, a hyakuen, 100 yen coin, and it fit absolutely perfect. It was just a tad bit large, just like the edges on the coin, so I sanded those down, but it fit almost perfect for the 7/8 inch circle. And so that's what I'm going to do with this, is I'm going to use that as my template so that I can shape a perfect circle that will fit into that 7/8 inch drill bit. So I was really excited about that for a couple reasons. I've actually made a template before, but the template that I made before is made out of pearl. And I can trace with that template, but I can't like stick the pearl to another piece of pearl and sand it down, because they're both the same material. And so, the same abrasive that I'm using to sand it down could sand down both materials. Whereas the coin is a lot harder of a material. And so I can use that as a backing to get a perfectly round circle that fits into that template just perfect. And so I was super excited about that. It makes for an absolutely perfect template, so I'm going to keep that coin, and I'll be using it for other projects later on. Don't always need the most fancy of stuff, you just got to find the perfect fit. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this other piece. So I still have quite a bit of whalebone left over, and so I'm going to be using that for additional projects in the future, and I am excited about that as well. You can see how thin that whalebone is though. It's not very thick at all, so I'm not entirely sure where it comes from. So now that I have my dots done, what I'm doing first is I'm drilling a very small hole all the way through. The purpose of that is, as long as you keep vertical, and this is where a drill pass would be nice if I had one, is it gives me a center dot on both sides that I can line up my drill to. So this way I know that the dot inlay is going to be the exact same location on both sides. And since the whalebone dot fits perfect to that 7/8 inch hole that drill bit is, it fits perfect. I just add some glue, and then I'm using that accelerant to dry the glue along the outer edges, and then the C glue, the CA glue, which is just a super glue, will slowly adhere on the bottom side. And it's bone, so it's very porous, and so that glue is gonna just lock into it really nice, and so I'm really excited about that. So the next thing that I needed to do was drill a center hole, and while I was looking for my template, and you'll see why, I came across these abalone pearl chunks that I acquired quite a long time ago, and I thought, man, these would be perfect for an inlay into the, or an inset into the handle. So an inlay isn't perfectly smooth with the rest of the wood. An inset kind of sticks out just a little bit, and so that's what these do. They're kind of rounded, and so they'll stick out just a little bit, and I thought this would be perfect. But I'm going to be working on that later. Right now I still need to finish just the handle. So there's that template I was referring to a while back, but it has a nice little hole in the center because of how I made the template, which is perfect. I just lined it up and used that to draw my center hole, and now I have a center hole for my drill out here in the center, because I was really worried about that, because if I drill off center, it's going to be super noticeable. It's not going to look very good, and so I really wanted that lanyard hole to be perfectly center. So I'm drilling it a little bit smaller at first, just taking a little bit off at a time, and then I'm going to be widening it with a little bit larger bit afterwards. But I wanted to go slow with it just to make sure I didn't drift on the bit and I didn't crack the whalebone. And then once I got it punched out with that first bit, I can go ahead and widen it with the second bit. I am leaving it a little bit small. Normally I drill that hole a little bit larger, but I wanted more of the whalebone to be there, and so I made sure just to leave it a little bit thicker for that reason. Unfortunately, this week I didn't have a whole lot of time, and so this is as far as I got, was finishing the inlay of the whalebone. I'll hopefully by this next week be finishing with the entire piece, and so that will be another shorter video, but it'll have the final Pahoa, the final dagger. If you like the video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. Leave me a comments below. I really enjoy the comments. As well as if you have any other ideas or suggestions. I always appreciate that. Mahalo plenty for everyone that watches my videos. I'm very humbled by it. The channel is slowly growing, but I'm still far from far from being anywhere large. But that's okay. Mahalo plenty, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.